In North Korea, Dr. Ruet continues his work, and the medical team prepares patients for surgery. In the developed world, cataracts rarely get so bad, especially in young people, that they result in blindness. But here, because of poor care and likely poor nutrition, the incidence is as much as 10 times higher than in the West and afflicts young and old alike. This woman is only 35, and her blindness has kept her from marrying. And this woman has been totally dependent on her husband for years. The demand here is enormous. But in North Korea, cataracts are only a small part of the humanitarian nightmare. German physician and human rights activist Norbert Fallertson worked for over a year in North Korea. He shot pictures of the horrible medical conditions: bloody old operating tables, beer bottles for IVs, no antibiotics or anesthesia.
Of course, the North Korean government will tell you everything is free in North Korea. It's not true, because it's not available. There is no medicine, there is no running water, there is even no soap in the hospital.
But it was the lack of food and its effect on children that made the most lasting impression.
When I was a medical doctor in North Korea, I saw a lot of starving children. I saw children dying under my hands when I was too late, when there was no more need for any emergency duty, because the child was dying when I came into the room. So I felt so helpless.
In the mid-1990s, natural disasters and government mismanagement created a famine that killed up to 3 million people, about 10% of North Korea's population. Taking place in the heart of prosperous East Asia, it was one of the worst famines of the century. Today, nearly 40% of North Korean children remain chronically malnourished. The average 7-year-old boy in North Korea is nearly 8 inches shorter and 22 pounds lighter than his brother in South Korea.
But I'd say the damage to his bones is permanent.
They're called the stunted generation.
It's a tragic situation, and it's extraordinary because same race, same people, same basic diet, and that's all malnutrition.
Reluctant to ask for help from the outside world, Kim Jong-il has expelled aid workers. Over time, he has isolated the country from much of the world, even cutting off communications with his neighbors to the south. North Korea's defiant stance toward the rest of the world stems from a philosophy created by Kim Il-sung called Juche.
The Juche philosophy basically means up yours to the outside world. We can make everything ourselves, we don't need you. And from an outsider's perspective, it's a peculiar thing. I mean, why make such a big deal out of being independent? Your people are starving, you've got no economy, you've got no trade. But in the Korean context, it has a profound resonance because Korean history is one of invasion and all sorts of abuse from major powers. So the North Koreans turned this history around and said, we're not going to take it anymore. And for Koreans, there is a very profound thrill that someone who would have the guts to stand up and be like that.
Kim Il-sung used Juche ideology to run North Korea for half a century and to transform himself into the father figure of the nation. He ruled with an iron fist and wielded absolute power. When Kim Il-sung died in 1994, he left behind a traumatized nation. His son, Kim Jong-il, took power in the world's first communist dynastic handover. Following in his father's footsteps, Kim Jong-il rules by fear and rarely listens to his own advisors.
When I proposed something, he would pretend to listen at first, but in the end, he would never listen.
Over the years, Kim Jong-il has used the Juche philosophy to unify his people in opposition to all things foreign, especially during times of hardship like famine. But personally, he indulges in luxurious imports. He has a 20,000 title private movie collection, a fleet of more than 100 imported limousines, and at one point was the largest single customer of Hennessy cognac in the world. Still, he uses the Juche ideology of self-reliance to justify his rule and crush all dissent. And one way he's held on to power is through the use of concentration camps to strike fear into the hearts of the people. In North Korea, places like this, a 31-mile by 25-mile long work camp known simply as Number 22, are scattered throughout the country. Camps can be the size of small cities. Number 22 reportedly holds up to 50,000 people, and many who enter don't leave alive. Defector An Myung-chol was a guard at Number 22. He escaped through China and is one of the few guards to tell his story to the outside world. Though satellites provide the only photographs of his camp, An remembers every detail.
When we were educated as guards, we were told not to think of the prisoners as humans. The moment you enter a North Korean prison camp, you're no longer a human being. If you think you're a human being, there's no way you can survive in the camps.
An saw his fellow guards beat and even shoot prisoners for minor offenses, like searching for mice to eat. Food was always scarce.
I remember seeing kids fighting over a corn kernel they found inside cow dung. A cow had eaten corn, and the children fought over it, and eventually washed it in the water and ate it.
It's our final evening in North Korea, and Dr. Ruet works late into the night to reach his goal of operating on 1,000 patients. He believes in humanitarian engagement with all of the countries of the world, whatever their... If all goes well, tomorrow the patients will have their vision restored. But how they actually see the world may be different from what we expect. At the hospital, the cataract patients are waiting for Dr. Ruet to remove their bandages. He's achieved his goal of operating on more than 1,000 patients. But they still don't know if they'll be able to see. Most have been blind for years. Some in one eye, others in both. Dr. Ruet is optimistic.
We did a little more than 1,000 surgeries, and all with very good results, no infections. On that aspect, I feel okay.
If everything goes well, as soon as the bandages are removed, people will be able to see immediately. The minder gives us one last warning to shoot only the full image of the dear leader. The moment of truth comes first for a 23-year-old woman. She's come with her father and has been completely blind for years.
Ask her to open her eyes. 자, 눈 들어요. Yeah? 눈 들어요. 보여요? Can she touch my nose? Where is your? Ask her where is her father. 아버지 어디 있나 여기?
여기 있습니다.
승희야, 내 보이느냐?
네, 잘 보입니다.
보이니?
네.
위대한 장군님의 덕분이구나. 우리 장군님께 근서를 드려야 한다. 우리 장군님 정말 고맙습니다.
이 자리에서 아버지 장모님께 감사 인사를 드리고 싶습니다.
위대한 영도사 김정일 원수님 정말 고맙습니다.
Each time a patient regained their sight, we were amazed to see them direct their gratefulness toward the dear leader.
부디 건강하십시오. 이렇게 늙은이 우리를 아프게 안아주시니 얼마나 고맙습니까?
Despite the hardships, he receives credit for everything that happens here. As I watched hundreds of people do and say virtually the same thing over and over and over again, I wondered which people had genuine faith and which were acting out of fear.
제가 다 하지 못한 충성과 활성을 우리 아들딸이 다 하도록 하며 우리 장군님을 천세만세 받들어 모시겠다는 것을 굳게 교리한다.
And finally, it hit me. Here, after generations of absolute rule and complete indoctrination, there may not be a difference between true belief and true fear.
이제 원수들을 이 땅에서 완전히 소멸할 때까지 선에서 총을 결단이 들어지고 이제 침략자들을 철저히 소멸할 것입니다.
North Korea is a place ruled by an absolute dictator who now possesses nuclear weapons. It's no longer possible to regard the country as an isolated anomaly. What happens here in the Hermit Kingdom can directly touch everyone in the world.
새 광명을 주신 위대한 장군님께 저는 게러리어 온 가족들과 함께 충성을 다하겠습니다. 위대한 영도자 김정일 동지